Croeso. Welcome to Leeway Productions podcast 10-Minute Musicals.
The only podcast on the whole of the internet that puts two opinionated Welsh directors at the helm whilst discussing collaborating as artists and the growing landscape of Welsh musical theatre.
I'm Angharad Lee, and I'm your host.
I'm Luke Hereford, and I am also your host. How are you, opinionated director Angharad Lee?
Oh, I don't know if I'm opinionated. I don't know if I'm extroverted, but I have just bought a little insect house for the insects in my gardens.
How lovely.
Yeah.
Gardens?
My gardens. I have got a few gardens, actually.
Lovely.
Dotted around the house.
In the palace, up in the valleys, is it?
Palace, I wish. Yeah, so I'm just going to be chatting with the insects over the next few weeks. Very
lovely.
excited.
Well, try not to get too distracted by the insects because we have two very special guests with us today. We'll be interviewing Jack Ronan and Beth Jones today, who are writing behind the 10-minute musical Banana Chips. This is actually the newest 10-minute musical that features in our podcast series and was written by Jack and Beth at the start of this year, back in February, during the 10-minute musical project when it was in Llanelli. Now, I'm actually very excited about this one because I don't really know anything about Jack and Beth's partnership or how this piece came about because I wasn't around during the Llanelli 10-minute musicals. Angharad, do you want to talk a little bit about that project when it happened at the start of the year?
Yes, we received funding from Arts Council of Wales to deliver this project for 3 years with a view of taking it across the region. So we were partnering up with Ffwrnes in Llanelli, RCT Theatres and Gallery in Carnarvon. And Llanelli was our first stop. So it was very much geared towards, what we do originally, but also introducing artists to new venues and new producers. So
nice.
when everybody turned up, I think there was about 70% of the artists that we worked with had never set foot in Ffwrnes before.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because, we forget we're so Cardiff-centric,
Absolutely. So my first time in Ffwrnes was when we did the last 5 years together, and it's such an amazing venue. I think
absolutely. Yeah. So, it's very much to encourage artists to collaborate within regions because, the aesthetic of a building, the aesthetic of a community is going to shift how people write and what people write about. And I think actually this is a perfect example, this piece we're going to discuss now of how that happened.
Great. Well, I'm excited to find out more about how that happened. So good morning, Beth and Jack. How are we both doing?
Good morning. Good, thank you. Yeah, really good.
Great. Where are you both joining us from today?
I'm in Barry, sort of by the side of my window, but on this nice cloudy day. But Barry.
I'm joining you from my kitchen in Canton in Cardiff.
Oh, lovely. Not far away from me, Beth. No. I mean, I'm sort of on the other end of town, but, a short cycle away.
So that leads into sort of what you're saying about being Cardiff centric, really. I don't know about you, Beth, but I hadn't been to Llanelli at all. So it was, I'm quite new to sort of being in Wales in general, really, I suppose. But yeah, so sort of moving to Barry and then going not straight, but going to Llanelli was quite, I don't know, it was nice. It was nice to be somewhere where exploring. Yeah, it was, especially the days we were doing it. It was the weather was particularly interesting. Yeah.
Amazing.
I have been to Llanelli before, and I went to Ffwrnes many years ago when I was doing a panto. But other than that, hadn't been there.
What was the panto, Beth?
It was a Welsh panto.
Oh, how exciting! What was it called? Tell us more. Go on.
It was called Maxen.
It's called
and
what?
I was Maxen, and I was a character called Menai Stray. I was the princess's sidekick. So I was the kind of female comedy character.
Great.
Was this with DH? It must have been.
Yes, it was. It's good, very good. I was only 21, fresh out of university, and it was quite a good life experience for me.
Fantastic. So Beth and Jack, you had never met before or worked together before this 10-minute musicals. So just kind of tell us how you began that collaboration, you know, when you're complete strangers, and just talk us maybe through briefly what Leeway did to help that collaboration on its way, really.
Well, you set us a task right at the beginning of the process, and that was just to kind of sit together and just find out a little bit about each other. And Jack and I feel we just clicked right at the beginning. We just found similarities between us, and we just got talking. And then I don't know about Jack, but I felt very comfortable in his company immediately, really. And I think if you're comfortable with someone, then you're able to be a bit more open, and then ideas can flow. And I think that helped quite a bit, is the way you kind of set us up to be together. It was very relaxed, and it was nice, the opportunity just to get to know each other.
Yeah, I agree. I think some people, like when you sort of talk about two strangers meeting and sort of tasking them immediately with writing something new, it sounds quite daunting. But I think the way that we sort of went into it through like a workshop process, and then discussing the way that both of us like to work and sort of ourselves as well, it made that sort of environment where you can sort of freely, openly share ideas, which is, I think, quite key especially when you're sort of working on. I mean, particularly with our musical, I think we were talking about some themes that weren't necessarily quite, I don't know, it happens with everything, I'm sure, but when you're talking about something that can be quite, I don't know what the right word is, melancholic, I don't know, it can be quite sad and sort of hard to talk about. It's not, you have to be with someone that you can sort of have those conversations with. So I think it was really good the way that we were introduced and the way that we sort of grew the partnership from the start so that we could share those ideas.
Great. And how were the tasks? Because everything's very task driven the first few hours anyway. How do the tasks kind of help you knit together, or do they help you knit together?
Well, we did those individually, and then you were put back. I mean, you were forced to kind of make whatever we'd both written separately work together, but because we were given an object, and we both chose pretty obscure objects. I chose a travel plug, and Jack, you chose, I can't quite remember what you chose.
Swimming goggles, I think I chose. It was, yeah, because I remember talking about, I think it was in terms of, I don't know, by chance or whatever, but I think the kind of themes and kind of ideas that Beth and I both came up with for our objects sort of gelled quite well together with a few differences, but I think that's where they kind of became interesting, was kind of adapting and making that collaboration of ideas kind of gel together.
And you guys, so Jack, obviously I've worked with you before as an actor, and your experience is mostly in stand-up comedy and performance. So what were your individual experiences of writing and composing before 10-minute musicals?
Personally, I mean, I've written sort of stuff for myself to sort of perform at little open mic nights or online on YouTube or certain things. And then obviously in different shows. So coming up with certain filler things. I mean, we're working alongside you. I've sort of done sort of small amounts of, well, depending on the show, but different amounts of sort of, I guess, composing in some ways, or just, writing music, but not necessarily anything that would be classified as a musical. So it was quite a new experience in that sense for me personally.
Absolutely. That's great. And what about you, Beth?
I've done a fair bit of writing. I mean, I've obviously got to write my comedy sets. So that's, it's a very different type of process, though. It's a different type of performing. But I have written a few scripts for different companies. I did the show Anamnesis. I don't even remember how many years ago now. But I've since moving down to Cardiff anyway. And quite a few years ago, I did a children's pantomime. That's what I decided to call it, of a Welsh, very random Welsh folk story. And it's just something I've always done. I've always written bits and written for different platforms, really. And it's just this was the first time I'd collaborated with somebody. That was a nice process.
Yeah,
it was nice actually to have someone to bounce off. Because there's something I've always wanted, is someone to kind of write with me. You write something, you send it off to someone and go, give me your advice. but it's not the same as actually sitting with someone and having these ideas together.
Absolutely. So I was actually going to ask a little bit about both of your individual sort of references or inspirations or writing styles, but I guess I'm kind of interested as well with that idea of new collaboration, how though, you know, if you have specific references within yourself, how it's changed when you two collaborated, or if they changed at all.
I think I tend to write. I not necessarily that it's always the same kind of thing, but I do quite like a certain style of music that I generally write. Sort of, I don't know if you'd describe it as a folky style or acoustic style. At least that's where anything I write tends to start, because it tends to be me on a guitar trying to do it, or now more recently sort of doing some piano stuff. But I still quite like the guitar for sort of bashing sort of things together and trying things out, because I think personally I'm a bit more confident on it to try and improvise things. But I think in terms of collaborating, it was quite nice, because I think I remember even in the first sort of meeting we had, I just sort of had that guitar and we were trying a few little things, and then the second meeting it was kind of the same thing, but it was nice to bounce things, because my writing style necessarily, I think Beth's writing style combined with, I think, my music is kind of more so where the musicals ended up. Beth writing sort of more comically and more, I don't know, it was sort of like a little gel of both of, I think I'm quite constrained sometimes by the music, and I think Beth was sort of it was great to bounce off Beth, where she would come up with ideas that I definitely wouldn't have thought of, because to me it sounded out of time. But then as soon as you actually try and put it together, you find a way of making it work, and it actually is a better idea. So it worked really well for me, from my point of view personally. But yeah.
And I guess this is the, you know, listening to you there now, that's the development, isn't it? Because writing for musical theatre isn't about writing songs, you know, they're not a series of songs, and you've just described that perfectly. So I'm just interested, because, you know, I was dipping in and out of this process, you know, if Beth can speak a little bit more about how that shift would happen between you.
Yes, well, I mean, I think at the beginning, the two of us, because we were so new to writing musical theatre, we had kind of structured it. I was writing as if I was just writing a script that I'd normally done. Jack was writing his songs, and it was like a script with songs in it. And then we had that kind of epiphany moment of, oh no, okay, no, it needs to actually be a musical. And it was just clicking everything together then, and figuring out how to go kind of from one scene to another and use the music, and to use the music to explain a story as well. I think my style of writing and my humour, I've got quite dark, sarcastic humour, and Jack's style of music fits perfectly with the type of, you know, I like to have maybe like a story of, oh, everything's great, la-di-da, but down there's like this kind of sadness to everything, and that is basically what Banana Chips, the story is. There's humorous, but there is that just sadness to it, and I think our styles just fit nicely together, because if I was to ever write something on my own, Jack is the type of person I'd want to write that music. That is the style of music I would have wanted, because inevitably everything I do is slightly dark, and yeah.
Help bring the sadness.
Yeah, this is great to hear, you know, because the whole point of 10-minute musicals is to kickstart relationships, and it's to kickstart seed ideas, and to kickstart, well, do I actually want to write for musical theatre? You know, some people come out of this process going, actually, no, this isn't for me, and that's absolutely as valid as anything else. So I'm just interested for you two as a pair. I'm going to throw this at you a little bit now. You know, if Leeway could offer you something, as in, what would be the next step for you as artists, you think, in the development of your relationship? Not even, you may decide, actually, this isn't the piece that we'd like to develop. So what platform do you think you need to be put in place to help artists at this stage in your career now?
Possibly having maybe someone else coming in just to kind of interject ideas as well. But I do think Jack and I worked quite nicely together with feeling quite open and honest. We were able to be honest and to share ideas, and just an opportunity to maybe once allowed to sit in a room together or sit outside in the open air together and just share ideas and expand and see what I think this idea, we could expand on it and it could become something bigger, and it is quite exciting for me. I feel that we could go somewhere, but I don't know where. And I would love the opportunity, if Jack would like the opportunity, just to kind of go with it and see if something happens. But that, I think it's that kind of support of maybe more experienced people in this field of, I know I've got my experiences, but it is mainly in stand-up comedy, which is a completely different art form. And just to have people pop in, like you offered us on the project, we had people come in and just give their expertise, and that's invaluable, really. What
about you, Jack, with regards to musicianship of this, you know, because you are forced to write differently here. So how, you know, what's the development of that for you?
I think for me, I really enjoyed the process and the way that it was. And I think it definitely encouraged, I don't know, not that we necessarily had to. I know you were sort of stressing that at the time, but it was definitely a good motivation to try and come up with something and to have something ready there for the performance that we were kind of happy with. And then the opportunity to keep working on it later on kind of meant that we got to refine certain parts of it a little bit more. So I think more of that really, in terms of maybe going back to the start and sort of going, right, why did we do X, Y, and Z here? And just going through it, refining it and seeing if we end up with the same kind of shape or if there's sort of different bits that come in between. So I think with more time, I think with more opportunity, if we were going back to the start, we may come up with new ideas. It might completely change the rest of the ending or change the way that it kind of goes through in terms of its structure. But I think just I don't know, in terms of musicianship, I think it's kind of to try and make more of a definitive style that the piece can follow, which I think going back to the beginning could kind of do that a little bit more. I know you were sort of talking about a motif a lot while we were kind of developing it, and that was something that I could never kind of settle on something quite that I really liked. So I think that's what I personally would want to do.
So really great to hear how you both feel you can develop your relationship as artists and your individual working styles as artists. So our next phase of the podcast is to actually see Banana Chips being performed by students from the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama.
Exciting. Yeah. Yes, please. Yeah, please.
Great.
I'm Mefus. It means strawberry in Welsh. Flamboyant dad. Don't ask.
I'm Hannah.
Hiya, Hannah. Do you like banana chips?
No, not really.
Oh. Can I keep them?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, thanks.
All my life I tried to find somebody, just a friend, that's all I could ever want.
They're really bad for you actually, so it's probably best you don't eat them.
And I would tell myself, maybe today I'll meet someone and be on my way.
Not because you don't look like you shouldn't be eating bad foods. I meant they're unhealthy generally. Do I have to do that?
Maybe yeah, it's okay. So could be my new friend.
I've been told I can be too much to deal with. Oh well, this is just who I am.
It's all about moderation.
But some days I feel I'm too much of a pain. I'm left alone, no one checks in again. I don't really have anyone to call a friend.
I don't like banana chips, but I could finish off a whole box of pizza
She's
bits.
just like me, sitting here alone, so lonely. She seems sweet, and we're both a little offbeat. How big's the box? 12 or 24?
24.
Wow, that's impressive.
Maybe she's the friend that I need, the one who can rely on me. Maybe
God, that was really cool. Oh, I always get this like funny feeling whenever there's like I don't know, whenever someone else performs something that you know you've sort of written or been involved in, it's kind of, it's different to performing your own stuff. I think that's really,
feel a bit like a proud dad.
yeah.
No,
I said it.
It was lovely to see how they'd interpreted it as well, and got over the fact that they've had to record it during this situation. And it was, the way that the words and the music kind of injected together was really nice.
Do you know what? Obviously, having never seen it performed IRL or live, as it were, it almost feels like it's written for this kind of lockdown environment, or that it really, really works in this lockdown environment, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think if the only element of it that made it back to the original is the banana chips at the beginning. If you took that little word out of that relationship of, can I keep them? It would, it could have just been written for these two friends who've met over the internet, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it just wraps up that, because you were speaking a lot about loneliness, and it is something of our age at the moment, especially for young people. I see it sometimes. Well, my daughter now, she's 12, going on 13, and the loneliness that she's had to deal with, and watching her battle that and fight against that. That it's something that I'm doing it again. What's Treiddio? Treiddio Troy, Beth.
Put me on the spot here.
I know.
Navigate.
Navigate. It weaves through our lives, day in, day out. So it feels, well, zeitgeist, isn't it? It really feels of its time, actually, this piece.
So when you did this piece for the first time in Llanelli, you both performed it as well, didn't you? Just might be good to clarify that for our listeners.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, so originally when we were writing it, we didn't know what the sort of, who was going to play what role, and then we knew that we had other people coming in to sort of, their role was to be performers. So I was performing the music in it, but Beth did play one of the parts in it.
Okay, so it was performed by Beth and one other actor, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love this story because I had no idea Beth could sing. So I know Beth from my rugby days. So
Amazing.
Beth and I used to be in the same rugby team. And I always knew, when you play rugby, you don't really ask each other what you do. It's irrelevant. Even when you're out drinking afterwards, it's never something that comes up. I knew she was a stand-up comedian because I'd been to some of her gigs. But past that, I had no idea of her skills. So then to see her sing, just flabbergasted. It was brilliant.
I'm a Eisteddfodwr Angharad. It's in our Welsh blood, isn't it? You've got to...
Absolutely. You're forced. Sing.
It certainly is in the Welsh blood to be able to sing. So I'm surprised you're surprised, Angharad, to be honest.
Surprised in a nice way,
Great.
Yeah.
So throughout the partnership project with Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, Leeway Productions have been working with designer Corey Shipp to bring an added element of a different kind of artist-led practice to these different 10-minute musical pieces. So Corey has seen each of these pieces and started making initial design ideas for each 10-minute musical, which we will share with the writers of Banana Chips very shortly. But first of all, let's introduce lovely theatre designer Corey Shipp. How are you today,
Hello.
Corey? Hi. How's it going?
Yeah, okay. How are you all? You all fine?
Yes, good. I'm sorry, I just spoke over you a lot then.
Absolutely fine.
And you're joining us from the Valleys again, aren't you?
Yes, absolutely. Back down in Blackwood, down towards Caerphilly. It's nice to be in Wales for lockdown.
Should we just dive straight in and show Jack and Beth your initial responses to Banana Chips?
Yeah, I'm a little bit nervous.
I love this part because I haven't seen any of these mood boards.
I have, but that's fine. It's not a competition.
So obviously initially what we worked with was I know that we've seen the version that's not specifically on a bus, but when we obviously take it outside, I think that's absolutely the truth we want to try and keep. So I started looking at ways to make the whole theatre a touring bus, which obviously has its own cost implications, but I think as a first point, that's really kind of what we want to do, isn't it? And there are buses that you can hire that are already set up like this. So you have the audience seating and then the stage seating, which I think is really fun. So obviously there's that route that you can go down. What also would be really interesting to explore is whether we actually need to split your audience and your performers, because the feel of it is very much that they're on a bus and that they're part of that whole community. So I think it would be interesting to look at whether there's ways to actually just put the whole thing on a bus, so unsuspecting passengers get on, pay their bus ticket, and then this whole pop-up performance takes place whilst they're travelling to their set location, which obviously would be brilliant. But I also had to look at, as a designer, because obviously getting permission to perform on a bus to unsuspecting passengers could be quite tricky. I wanted to look at other ways that we could creatively incorporate it, so that it wasn't so much of something travelling, but something that people could walk along the streets doing their daily shopping, and this pop-up performance starts to happen. And I started getting really obsessed with this idea of sort of theatre companies taking over bus stops and decorating them and changing them so that they feel like they're made of elements of buses, and that whole performance takes place on the bus stop rather than interfering with daily bus routes and travel. And I loved this image you can see at the bottom of the old American school bus that's become converted into this bus stop ready to go, which I think is really interesting, because then we get that sense of A, where we are, B, the truth of the story that you've so creatively put together, but also something that's not completely intrusive on people who don't want to take part. You can walk away from that situation, whereas I feel like people like my nan would maybe get on the bus and find a pop-up performance quite horrifying. So there was ways to sort of move around that, but also ways that we could potentially stage it rather than it being outside, and have these carry-on bus pieces so that you can go in through the bus door and then blow that bus apart and see it that way as well. I mean, this is great as a designer's piece, because there are so many different ways that you can go about incorporating a bus into people's lives. I just think is really entertaining. So I had a whale of time. It was great.
This is fantastic. It's you absolutely captured what was in my head looking at it. Beth and Jack, when we were working together, what I loved more than anything is that there would be an open top bus tour, and maybe there is, I don't know, but around Llanelli.
Yeah.
But and we laugh at it, but actually, the history of our towns, and we are a series of towns in Wales. That's what we are. And we've got loads of anchor towns. The valleys are huge anchor towns, and our history is being lost. So actually, to put an open top bus around these places would be bloody brilliant. I think.
How great would that be? You'd have a little history tour and then a performance. That'd be great.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's really funny in terms of the some of the ideas. I know that obviously you were part of the development of it, but with Beth and myself, we were talking about there was a character in there who was the bus driver who kind of interjected with these comedic but actually true facts about the area around. So it was kind of part of the piece, but also used it to sort of move it along and to fill in spaces where we wanted there to be awkwardness between the characters. But yeah, it kind of really fits in really nicely with that as well.
And how wonderful would it be if you managed to get it to go on an actual bus, and you managed to get the bus driver like completely into it as almost sort of actor performer who also knew what was going on and kept jumping in? It'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, just interjecting over the speakers. Well, tannoy, I guess is the word, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be great.
The one with the like kind of theatre people setting is absolutely fantastic. All of them are. You have like gone into our brains and just popped out imagery imagery I didn't even realise I wanted, and it's fantastic.
It's really cool.
It's kind of made it go, oh yes, this could happen actually, and it's
this could absolutely happen. This is a great one to sort of see the way of how it could go both outside performances and indoor performances. It's so flexible.
Traveling around Llanelli, it would work. But then it could also you could pop it somewhere else in another part and just have that element of the show change to like Cnarfon or the summer, because the intimacy of the characters can kind of travel around the country, I'd say, and no matter what location you're in, that's the difference then. And yeah, it's just, I want to go on that bus journey myself now. I want to step on
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I think what you've captured as well is, we've discussed this a lot in the intro episode Luke and I did, that these are 10-minute musicals and they hold up beautifully as 10-minute musicals, and that is of absolute value in itself. You know, that all of these don't have to be developed, but this is absolutely one. I think we've discussed this a lot, that you can see how this can be stretched. But just looking at this bus stop here, you know, we're talking a lot at the moment about having a series of promenade performances of our 10-minute musicals. So this could exist as a part of the promenade, but also an extension of itself, you know. So it's all wrapped up here in these images. It's very cool.
I really like the idea of the bus stop. I don't know, there's something about bus stops where I always walk past them. I think, that the other day they've got smashed windows or but I like the idea of theatre taking over bus stops and sort of renewing them and refreshing them in some way, but also kind of bringing a bit more life to them, because I think sometimes they can look a bit run down depending on, I don't know how many people were drunk there or something the night before. But yeah, I really like that idea.
So there's something nice about feeling like you're reclaiming your hometown through art. If you take over, like you said, a broken, nasty bus stop and turn it into something that becomes way more lively and has a sense of purpose. And there's something politically charged about it, which I can always get behind.
Thank you to theatre designer Corey Shipp for those lovely design responses. And if you are tuning in through a non-visual medium but want to see the responses for yourself, you can catch this episode on our YouTube channel. Before we bring that to a close, I just want to ask our two wonderful artists, Jack and Beth, what is in store for each of you next?
So for myself, I'm sort of in discussion with a couple of people about some new writing, some people from university and from various years. So I've got a meeting about that later on today, actually, and we'll sort of see where that goes, and just trying to keep going and making new stuff, and trying to keep myself going creatively. I think I've personally had a bit of a stint of not doing a lot to do with theatre, and obviously with everything going on in the world, it's also brought that it's made it a lot harder. So it's kind of trying to keep going and make new stuff, and working on a few little ideas here and there and see what they develop into.
And is that writing as a musician, Jack, or as a playwright?
And that's writing. Well, I think it's kind of a bit of both, and also performing in that as well. So kind of going into more, trying to keep going with acting things as well as sort of venture out and to try and write some stuff for myself and for other people as well.
Very exciting. What about yourself, Beth?
Well, the comedy world has gone a little bit, obviously, kaput at the moment with the situation. But there's a couple of online gigs. I've possibly got one coming up at the end, so that's going to be a completely new process for me, because it's going to be very different to do, obviously, perform to a computer screen. But also there's a few projects coming up through S4C to do online. I'm having an Angharad moment of, I can't think of the English word, online stuff. That'll do. So it's just, if anybody sends a project my way, I'm a bit like, yeah, go on for it. But I work full time as well, so I'm working full time from home. Plus, I have a 2-year-old toddler, so there being no childcare at the moment. That's what my life is trying to work from home, trying to be creative, but having a 2-year-old running around as well.
Yeah, it's really a time to be kind to ourselves, I think, at the moment, and not put too much pressure on ourselves, but always, just try and play the long game, I think, is what we somehow need to do at the moment. But thank you for joining us, Beth Jones and Jack Ronan. Thank you as well to Leah Willis and Harriet Bowie, who performed Banana Chips. Thank you to musical director Joe Hood. And last but not least, Corey Shipp, for your amazing design responses.
And thank you, of course, to you, our listeners. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you tell your friends to listen as well, and share the love on social media using
#Leeway10pod.
And tag us at LeewayProds on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Join us next time for more behind-the-scenes conversations from more alumni of Leeway's 10-Minute Musicals project. Until then, I've been Angharad Lee.
And I've been Luke Hereford. Diolch, Angharad.
Diolch, Luke.